Hello everyone and welcome to Behavior Breaks, presented by the Arkansas Behavior Support Specialist. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how you can use reinforcement in your classroom. Hi everyone, my name is Nikita Reno and I am so excited you are tuning in. So today we're talking about reinforcement. Have you ever thought to yourself or heard someone say, there seems to be nothing that keeps my students motivated, or it seems like they like one thing one day and then the next day they don't like it at all? Let me tell you something, as behavior support specialists, this is something we hear all the time. You are not alone, I promise. So my hope for you today is that you take some really great tools, resources, and ideas from this behavior break that you can use in your classroom to keep your students engaged and motivated. So reinforcement, what is it? Before we get into any type of method or tips, we need to know what reinforcement is. So reinforcement is, and I'm going to read it, the process by which events that follows a behavior increases or maintains future frequencies of behavior. So what does that mean? Basically, it means that reinforcement strengthens and increases behavior. So think about some of those behaviors in your classroom that you want to see strengthened or increased. Do you want students following routines and procedures more consistently? Do you want them coming to class prepared? Do you want them participating in group discussions? If it's in a virtual setting, do you want them participating in breakout discussions appropriately? Do you want them engaging in chat? Reinforcement can be used to increase any of those behaviors. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about reinforcement for the entire class, and I'm going to give you a really simple but effective tool that I think you will love and I think your students will love as well. But let me give a little bit of plug. We are going to have a future brain break that will go more in depth on group reinforcement contingencies. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, let's go. So when we're talking about reinforcement for the entire class, again, what do you want to see increase? What are those behaviors that you want to see increased or even strengthened in your class? And so when we're talking about reinforcement for the entire class, the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to identify that behavior that you want to see increased. Okay, and then the next thing is you're going to want to figure out where your students are currently performing. You're going to want to figure out the baseline. So say the goal or say the behavior that you've identified to increase is actively participating in group discussion. And say right now, on average, you have about 10 out of 25 students participating in group discussion. So that's a baseline of 40%. So you have your behavior that you've identified and you've established your baseline. The next thing you want to do is you want to set a goal. What do you want to see that behavior increased to? So remember, your baseline is 40%. You don't want to set your goal too lofty or too high. So you don't want to say, oh, I want 80% of my students participating in group discussion. I want 100% of my students participating in group discussion. Yes, eventually that's your goal, but think about where they are right now. Think about that baseline of 40%. And so setting a goal of 80 or 100% may be too challenging for your students, and it may be difficult for them to achieve. So a more appropriate goal to start out with is, right now I have about 10 out of 25 students participating in group discussion. I want to increase that to 15 out of 25 students participating in group discussion. And then you can gradually increase the amount of students that you want to participate in group discussion. Okay, so we have identified our behavior. We have identified our goal. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to decide on a reinforcer that you're going to provide for your students. So remember how we talked about reinforcement being the process. Let me read it again. Let me read that definition for you. Reinforcement is the process by which events, those are key words, The process by which events that follows a behavior increases or maintains future frequency of behavior. So while reinforcement is the process, reinforcers are the actual events that follows behavior that increases or maintains the future frequency of that behavior. So let's think about when we were in elementary school. And when we did a good job on something, so we cleaned up our desk after class, we were really helpful with up here, and our teachers would give us stickers. And I don't know about you, but I had a sticker book, and I would collect all of my stickers on my Trapper Keeper, and it was my pride and joy. So whenever I would get a sticker, I would get so excited, and then the next time I would see a friend who needed help, I would help them because I knew there was a chance that my teacher would give me a sticker, right? So that sticker was a reinforcer because it increased my behavior of helping my friends. So when you think about your class, you need to determine a reinforcer that's going to be motivating for them, something that they're going to want to work for. And one of the best things that you can do is to get your students in on this, because who knows what they want better than them? Now, I will say that it will be helpful to give them some options, because we know that students can come up with some really crazy ideas or things that are just not possible in the school setting. Am I right? And one really cool way, or one really cool tool, it's a website that I found. It's called MintyMeter.com, and it's a really cool way for you to kind of poll your students to see what reinforcers they're willing to work for as a class. Here's a short video on how MintyMeter works. So what you would do is you're gonna go to MintyMeter.com and you're gonna create a poll. This one here is titled, "What do you want to work for?" And then at the bottom, you see listed the different options that the class can choose from. They can choose to end class 10 minutes early. They can choose to get a freebie question on the test. They can even choose a TikTok dance for the teacher to do. Obviously, these need to be things that you're willing to do or willing to give your class. But here are just some examples. And another really cool thing that I love about MintyMeter is that it's not just some bland poll, right? You can add pictures to it. I have chosen to add GIFs because I think GIFs are funny and I think kids love GIFs. So you can customize it in many different ways. MintyMeter is just a really cool tool overall. I suggest you check it out. So next, after you have created this poll, you're gonna have your students go to minty.com and they're gonna type in that code. And if you look at the top of your screen, it has the code that the students will need to type in. And once they type in that code, it will take them to your poll and they can vote on the reward or the reinforcer that they want for the entire class. And you can watch this live. You can see live results coming in. You can do this in a typical classroom setting. You can do this in a remote learning setting, and it's really fun and interactive for your students. All right, so you've established a reinforcer, you've used MintyMeter, you know what the students want to work for. The next thing you need to do is you need to determine how you're going to provide feedback. How are the students going to know that they're reaching their goal? Are you going to do a tally counter on your whiteboard? Are you going to have a tagulator? Are you going to have a marble jar? I have a video that I want to show you of a virtual marble jar that I created that can be used in the remote learning setting. Here is an example of a virtual marble jar that I created in Google Slides that can be used in the remote learning setting. So what I've done is I've set this jar clip art image as the background on the Google slide. And then I added this marble using Google Images. You can screen share this so that your students can see their progress. As you see students engaging in positive behaviors or completing the goal that you set for them for that day or that class period, you can add marbles to the jar. And once all the marbles have been added, they can receive the reinforcer that they chose as a group. So I'm pretty sure the majority of you are familiar with Snapchat. And I promise you that your middle school through high school students are very familiar with Snapchat, and they are also familiar with Snapstreaks. So basically, a Snapstreak is when you and your friend have been having a conversation for a long period of time. So say for instance, you and your friend have been sending snaps back and forth to each other for 100 days. Yes, I know, 100 days in a row. Your students do this. But say you've been sending those snaps back and forth to each other for 100 days. When you reach 100 days, Snapchat gives you this really cute emoji that's next to the conversation. And then as the conversation gets longer, you get more emojis added. A really cool way to incorporate streaks into your group contingency is to add a different icon when they earn a streak. So say for instance, right now you're keeping a tally count on your whiteboard for the number of times that your students meet the goal of engaging in group discussion. And let's say once they reach 5 tally marks, they get a star, which means they've had a week streak. So once they get 5 stars, which means they have a streak of 5, they've been consistently meeting the goal of engaging in group discussion, they will get the hugest, most amazing reinforcer. It could be dyeing your hair blue. It could be having a pizza party. It could be sending your students DoorDash. I mean, I know that last one's a little bit pricey, but this has to be amazing because they've hit a streak. And again, it's a really good idea to get your students' input on this. I just think that this is a really cool way to bring something into the school setting that your students are familiar with. It's something that they love, and it's something that can keep them engaged and motivated. So a quick wrap up of group reinforcement contingencies. You want to identify the behavior that you want to see increased. You want to identify your class's baseline of where they are as far as that behavior is concerned. Then you want to set the goal for your students to meet. You want to determine a reinforcer that they're going to receive, and then you're going to want to determine a way that you're going to provide feedback. So remember that simple yet effective tool that I mentioned earlier? Well, it's called the STAR chart. Many of you may be familiar with this. We as behavior support specialists, we've talked about this. We've actually done some trainings on this, and it's a really effective tool to use in the classroom. Here's an example of a STAR chart. As you can see, the word STAR is written on the top, and the numbers 1 through 5 are listed on the side. Now, how this works is when you see that student engaging in that behavior that you want to see increase, they've come to school prepared, they are participating in group discussions, what you can say is, hey, I see that you are actively participating in group discussion. Go sign the STAR chart. And then what they'll do is they'll go sign their name on one of those boxes in the STAR chart. They can sign anywhere on the STAR chart. They can sign in other boxes if other students' names are there, and they can be chosen multiple times a day. And then what's going to happen is at the end of the day, you're going to write all of those letter number combinations on a Post-it note, on strips of paper. You can use a random name generator if you are doing this in a remote learning setting. And you're going to put all of those strips of paper or Post-its in a container, and then you're going to draw one of those letter number combinations out. And so, say for instance, you've drawn the letter number combination A5. All the students on A5 will have an opportunity to receive a STAR reward. Now, STAR rewards can be anything. They can be extra recess time. They can be extra points on a quiz. They can be given a homework pass. Here are a few more ideas for STAR rewards. You can have a popcorn pass. You can have a treat in class. A lunch line pass, assisting the teacher or the principal, extra recess time. I'm sure there are a ton of cool ideas that you can come up with for STAR rewards as well. Really, the possibilities are endless, but the goal is that they are free and that they're things that students love and that you are willing to provide for them. Here are just a few examples of how the STAR chart can be customized and designed to fit your classroom setting. You can choose your school's mascot, different words and designs. There are so many options to choose from. Here's an example of a virtual STAR chart that I have created for the remote learning setting. Here's an example of a virtual STAR chart that I created in Jamboard. How I created the STAR chart was, first, I created the grid in Google Slides. Next, I downloaded the slide as a PNG onto my computer. After downloading the slide as a PNG onto my computer, I then went and created a new Jamboard. After opening a new Jamboard, I went to the photo icon on the left-hand side and added the PNG that I had just downloaded to my Jamboard. I adjusted the grid, and it was ready to go. The link can now be shared with your students. As you see students engaging in those appropriate behaviors, you can share the star chart link with them. Once they have the star chart link, they can then sign their name anywhere on the grid in the star chart. So in order to create a random name generator for your star chart for the remote learning setting, you'll need to go to wheelofnames.com. And here I am, I'm about to input all of the letter number combinations from the star chart into this wheel of names. So once you've input all of the letter number combinations from the star chart into the wheel, it's ready to use. So when you're ready to decide which of those students is going to win those star rewards, all you have to do is come to this link and the random name generator will choose a letter number combination for you. There are a variety of star rewards that the students can choose from. Breakout room with a friend, teaching the class a TikTok dance, getting a positive phone call home from the teacher, or playing a Jamboard game with a teacher or peer. I'm going to show you how to do that really quickly right now. Creating a Jamboard game is very similar to creating a virtual star chart. First, what you're going to want to do is create a new Jamboard. Once you've created a new Jamboard, you can title it to be the name of the game that you want your students to play. Next, you're going to go over to the photo icon and you're going to select the board for the game that you want to play. Here I chose tic-tac-toe. So I choose the board, and then next I resize the board so that it fits the screen. After I have resized the board, then I will share the link with the students who have earned the star reward of playing a Jamboard game with their peer or with their teacher. Next, you wait for the students to join, and then you have an interactive game of tic-tac-toe. It's as simple as that. And just in case you were wondering, the star chart is not just for younger students. It can be used with middle school students through high school students. It's all about modifying the appearance and then modifying those star rewards to better fit those students' preferences. Here's a quick example of what I mean. Here's an example of a way that you can customize the star chart for older students. This one is called You Get a Pass. It's structured the same way as for your younger students, except instead of star, it says pass. And then the rewards, or the pass choices in this case, are modified to fit your older students, such as having extra time to complete homework, being able to drop the lowest quiz, retaking a quiz. Again, with the star chart, it's really easily customizable to any of your students. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. We talked about reinforcement being the process where events that follow a behavior increase the future likelihood and strengthen that behavior. We talked about reinforcers being those actual events that are following behavior. Think about your stickers, the star choices, the things like that. We talked about reinforcement for your entire classroom and what that looks like, how you need to identify the behavior that you want your students to work on. You need to identify the baseline where your students are currently performing with that particular behavior. You need to identify the goal. So what do you want that behavior to increase to? You need to determine a reinforcer, and it's a really great idea to get your students' input on that. And then you need to determine a way that you're going to be providing feedback to let your students know if they're meeting that goal or not. And so then we talked about the star chart and the many ways that you can customize that to fit your particular classroom setting. This has been so much fun. I hope that you guys got so much out of this behavior break. I hope that you got some really cool ideas and resources. Just make sure you stay tuned. We're gonna have more behavior breaks in the future with tons of great information. And as always, if you need any information or additional resources, please feel free to visit our website at arbss.org. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.